Hey, what is happening, guys? What's going on YouTube? And thank you guys for tuning into Rules for Rebels. I think you guys are really going to like this video that I have for you guys today. Basically, what we're going to be discussing is having your own store versus selling on a platform. Now, when we talk about your own store, it could be Shopify, but it doesn't have to be Shopify. It could be Shopify, BigCommerce, Volusion, Big Cartel, your own WordPress site using a plugin like WooCommerce or Magento, but basically selling on your own platform that you own and control versus selling on a platform where you really just kind of upload your designs, and at that point it's pretty hands-off. You get paid if your designs sell. So examples of this would be Amazon Merch, Threadless, Designs by Humans, Redbubble, Zazzle, Cafe Press. And then we're also going to discuss briefly things like Etsy and eBay, which are kind of a hybrid between the two of these. So they're not completely passive, but it's less work than setting up your own store. Now, kind of the reason that I wanted to address this is there's definitely benefits to having your own store that you own and control, right? Like if you have your own store, you can collect customers' emails. There's a lot more of the ability to customize. If you decide you want to branch out of selling print-on-demand products, and let's say you make maybe like mountain climbing or rock climbing print-on-demand t-shirts, but let's say one day down the road you're like, you know what, I want to start selling carabiners or climbing shoes or something else. When you have your own store, you can scale it and expand it into other products, whereas when you're selling on a Threadless, a Redbubble, a Zazzle, and Amazon Merch, you're kind of limited to the products that they offer. Now, in terms of the pros and cons of each way of doing things, Shopify, there's tons of benefits to having Shopify store or your own store. There's also some benefits to selling on a platform. No, platforms are going to bring you some organic traffic. Platforms are also a lot more hands-off. So whereas if I have a Shopify store, I'm having to set up the store, I'm having to deal with customer service issues, I'm having to take returns, I'm having to have my own payment processor. Whereas selling on these platforms like Threadless, Redbubble, I literally just upload my designs, and from there it's pretty hands-off. I'm not really having to do anything else. So that means if I'm a digital nomad, I can travel the world without having to stay on top of it as much. That means if I want to create one store in a niche like rock climbing, and then I want to move on to another surfing one, and then I want to move on to another one. You know, with Shopify, you're going to have 4 different stores, 4 different $29 fees, 4 different groups of customers you're going to have to keep track of. Whereas with Redbubble, Threadless, Zazzle, Amazon Merch, not with Merch, you're allowed one account, but with Redbubble, you can set up numerous Redbubble stores and just kind of hop from niche to niche to niche. So this is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. I'm calling this a case study. Although it's kind of an informal case study. And the reason I say it's kind of an informal case study is normally you'd probably want to let something run a little bit longer. I've been running this since June. So June, July, August, September. I mean, we're not even 4 full months into it. Also, I haven't necessarily put an equal amount of work into the Shopify store versus Redbubble. You know, some of these platforms I've maybe put a little bit more effort into. And so this is going to be kind of an informal case study. But really what I kind of wanted to get into here is kind of discussing the pros and cons of having your own store versus selling on a platform. I know there's a ton of people who make videos like, oh, I set up my own Shopify print-on-demand apparel line and I made $100,000 my first month. You know, I don't claim to be the best e-commerce person out there, the best print-on-demand person out there, but on Amazon Merch, I pulled in $1,000 last month. So, I mean, I think that shows that I at least know a little bit about what I'm doing. I have some designs that sell. And so, you know, you can kind of look at my stats here, my experience, and kind of judge for yourself if, you know, which direction you think would be right for you. Like I said, I mean, I'm not the best person. I'm also no dummy. So if I struggled with print on demand, having my own Shopify store, and if you're not even matching the numbers that I'm doing on merch, but you think you're going to have more success on a print on demand store, it's very possible you will. But I'm basically kind of trying to give you guys some insight into what the experience of having your own store is, how difficult it can be to drive traffic, how costly Facebook ads can be. And that's kind of really what I'm trying to get at here. So I'm not necessarily saying print on demand store is better or platforms is better. Your situation could be different than mine. Maybe the niches that you work in cater more to having your own store than selling on a platform. But in this video, I just kind of wanted to share my experiences. So when you have your own store, you have more customization of the site layout, more branding, more products, etc. So a lot of these print-on-demand platforms like Redbubble and things like that, they do let you upload like an emoji for your account. You are allowed to put some type of banner on In many cases, you can kind of organize your store in a certain way. You can select what products you want to offer. And as far as some of the print-on-demand platforms I've been using, Redbubble is really the one that I've had the most success with. More recently, I've expanded into Threadless, Spreadshirt, Society6, and Teespring. Redbubble is the only one that's been going for a while. The other ones I'm anywhere from a week to 2 weeks in, but I haven't had any sales yet. But in terms of customization, like, yeah, print-on-demand platforms are getting a little bit better about letting you customize your store. You can buy your own custom domain and forward it to, redbubble.com/rules for rebels, and kind of in that sense have your own domain that you can send people to. But ultimately with Shopify, the options in terms of how to make your store layout, the types of products that you can offer, etc., way, way more customization having your own store than selling on a platform. Second, you can offer non-POD products or non-print-on-demand products. So, there's a lot of great offerings when it comes to print-on-demand sites. Redbubble has, what do they got? Redbubble has clocks. They have tray tables. They have drink trays. I know Threadless has bar stools and coffee tables. So, these sites are starting to roll out more and more products. But ultimately, you're never going to have as much flexibility as you do having your own store. And I gave the example earlier, if I have a store that sells t-shirts about rock climbing, and I decide that I actually want to start selling rock climbing gear because they, I'm making good sales on t-shirts, why not add another product line? That's something that I can do with my own store or with a Shopify store. That's not something that I could do on a platform, right? Like, Redbubble doesn't have rock climbing shoes. Number 3, better access to customers' emails and data. So, Redbubble and some of these sites do let you put out notifications and, in a sense, communicate to your customers a little bit. Hey, I have some new designs up. But ultimately, with Shopify, you have your customer's name, address, phone number, and email. If you want to remarket to them with emails, you can use something like MailChimp or Aweber or any of the other softwares to do that for free. And that's one of the beautiful things about email marketing is, when you're running Facebook ads, when you're running Google AdSense ads, every single time you run an ad, you're having to pay to get a customer. Well, if somebody buys one rock climbing shirt from me, and now I have their email and I know they're into rock climbing stuff, when I roll out a new design, I can email them essentially completely for free and let them know about the new design. If I start rolling out other products, I can email them. So you get a little bit of a closer relationship with your customers. You also have a better ability to run ads. Now, there may be some print-on-demand platforms out there that have some type of PPC ads. I suppose if I wanted to, I could run Facebook ads to my Redbubble store. But ultimately, when you have your own platform, you can put a Facebook pixel connected to your Shopify store. And I'll know, if a sale comes through on Shopify, I know 100% whether that sale can be attributed to a Facebook ad or whether that was just an organic sale. Now, most of the time when you sell on platforms, whether it be Amazon Merch, Redbubble, or whatever else, if you're running Facebook ads, because you don't actually have control over the checkout process, you can't put a tracking pixel from Facebook ads or Google AdWords into the checkout system to really know whether you're converting. So if you're running ads, you're essentially just running ads blindly. If a sale comes through, you don't know if that can be attributed to the ads you're running or if that was just an organic sale. And it also, typically speaking, the profit margins on your own Shopify store or your own website are going to be better than selling on a platform. And so it may or may not be worthwhile to run ads. If it's costing you $10 to drive a conversion and you're only making $5 per shirt sale, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to do. As far as some of the cons about selling on your own store, there's more costs and more responsibilities. You're having to set up the site. So if you've never set up a Shopify store before, Volusion, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, WordPress, you are going to have to set up the site. You're going to have to do the layout. I needed some images to put on my site, so I wound up spending about $70 in Placeit, like mock-ups for my t-shirts so that I could actually have examples to put up on the site. You also have more responsibilities. So that includes setting up the site. You're going to need to select a payment processor. You're going to have to handle the customer service. If a product goes out defective, you're going to have to handle that situation. You're going to have to take returns. So having your own store is going to be a lot less passive than selling on a platform. And then lastly, there's a little bit more of a risk in terms of chargebacks and returns. Now, this isn't something that I would freak out about or really be too concerned about, but if somebody does want to do a return, you're actually going to have to be the one to handle that situation. Whereas, returns always suck, but on something like Amazon Merch or Redbubble They're going to handle the returns. I'm not having to take anything back. I'm not having to issue a refund. That's totally off of my plate. And I'll give you one quick example in terms of why this is somewhat important. So on Saturday night, I actually had only my second sale ever come through on my Shopify store. The order was from Puerto Rico, and the person ordered, I think it was 7 or 8 shirts. Now, the fraud filter on my merchant processor says that the billing address matches the shipping address. It doesn't show signs, show typical signs of fraud. So my processing system is saying it should be a safe order to ship. You should ship this out. In the back of my mind, it just strikes me as odd that somebody's going to spend almost $200 on t-shirts. They did order all the same size, so that could lead me to think that they're for them. But I still haven't processed the order yet. I've been weighing it since last night. And I'm like, do I process this and make maybe, I don't know, somewhere between $45 and $55 off that sale? But if it turns out to be fraudulent, which it does strike me as weird that somebody would buy 8 shirts, almost an entire wardrobe of my t-shirts, if that sale does go bad or wind up being a credit card chargeback or fraudulent credit card use, I'm out $180. So, or actually I think $186. So there's $186 I could potentially lose. There's $50 I could potentially gain. Do I cancel the sale and potentially piss off a potentially good customer? Or do I keep the sale and risk losing that money? These are the types of decisions that you're going to have to deal with running your own store. So if we go over to print-on-demand platform, some of the pros and cons of that, there's no need to set up a website. Redbubble, Amazon Merch, etc. handles that for you. There's no need to get a payment processor. They handle that for you. You don't have to handle any customer service, and you don't have to handle any returns. And why I like that, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, but if I set up a store about rock climbing and then I want to go set up another one about surfing and another one about kayaking, I can just hop from Redbubble setting up store to store to store, and kind of once I set it up, upload all my designs and then forget about it. Not that you necessarily want to forget about it, but I don't necessarily have to be keeping up with customer service issues. So that's definitely one pro of the platforms. Another benefit of platforms is the organic traffic on that platform. So with my own Shopify store, I'm having to drive all the traffic. So I can either pay for traffic or pay for sales through ads, or I can create organic content on social media, YouTube, infographics, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever I want to do, or I can drive my own traffic. Now, I think a lot of people tend to think that they're just going to throw up a Shopify store and kind of like, if you build it, they will come. It doesn't happen like that, guys. For anybody who's never set up a blog, never set up a YouTube channel, you can put a ton of effort into writing articles, making social media posts, making YouTube videos, and sometimes you will get some traffic, but a lot of times you may put up a great YouTube video and it may get 2 views. You may write a great blog post and it may get no views besides you looking at your own post. And that's one of the benefits of being on a platform is if I'm on Redbubble, Threadless, Spreadshirt, Amazon Merch, there's already people shopping on those platforms, and that's incredibly powerful. When you have to drive your own traffic, it's either going to cost you time or money, and I think a lot of people don't realize how challenging that can be. There's less ability for custom branding. That's another negative. And that basically goes to, I can set up a Shopify store however I want. On my Redbubble store, I'm pretty much limited to like an emojicon for my username or icon. And then like a 928 by 1400 banner, that I can have a little banner on my site. But I mean, outside of that, I'm somewhat restrained by what the platform allows me to do. Less of a relationship with your customers. If somebody buys something off my Redbubble store, Redbubble is actually better than some. They actually do give you some info about what state the person was from and things like that. So that's kind of interesting, but you're not getting, I'm not getting access to their email. I'm not getting their address. I'm not getting their phone number. So I don't necessarily have the ability to continue to email market to them. Next, I have less control over the checkout process and ad conversions. So it's going to be harder to advertise. And I already kind of talked about that, but with the Shopify store, I have complete control over the checkout screen, so I can put in an AdWords tracking pixel. I can put in a Facebook tracking pixel, and I can know definitively how well my ads are converting, how much I'm paying per conversion. When you're selling on platforms, with the exception of Etsy, which we're going to talk about these kind of hybrid platforms in a minute, with the exception of Etsy, which does have its own PPC program, I can run Facebook ads, I can run AdWords ads to my Redbubble store, but I really don't have any idea how well they're converting, so I'm kind of running them blindly. And then lastly, less flexibility over pricing. And the reason I say that there's less flexibility over pricing is, on Redbubble, I can control the margin. So Me personally, I've upped my I think across the board, they give you a 20% margin, and then you can customize products. So I can say, okay, stickers, I sell a lot of stickers, but I'm only making cents per sticker. I'm going to raise the margin on my stickers to 200%. And that's something that I recently did. Sales slowed down slightly, but now as opposed to making like 40 cents per sticker sold, I'm making $2 and $3 per sticker sold. So I think that's going to benefit me. I can kind of control the margins. On a platform like Society6, for example, they will only let me control the margins on 3 of the products. And I believe it's like canvas prints, posters, and I don't know, maybe it's wooden prints or something like that. But there's only 3 products where I can mark my margin up higher. For any other products sold on Society6, they have a fixed price. I think off a t-shirt sale, I'm going to make like $2, and they don't even give me the ability to say, no, I want to make $6 per t-shirt, or no, I want to make $8 per t-shirt. All print-on-demand platforms are going to be different. Redbubble does give you pretty much control over all the products, but a lot of these things are going to have like a flat set pricing, and you're kind of locked into that pricing. So next, we're getting a little bit off topic here, but I wanted to briefly touch on hybrid platforms. Something like eBay or Etsy is going to be a type of a hybrid platform. You don't have as much control as you do with your own site, but you do have more control than you do on a platform like Redbubble. For example, if you list something on Etsy or eBay, you can fulfill it through a site like Printful, Printify, CustomCat. It's not as hands-on or costly as fully having your own store. And you get to take advantage of the platform's organic traffic and PPC or sponsored ad listings, i.e. Etsy has pay-per-click advertising you can run, and eBay has sponsored listings where you can give up a percentage of your sale in order to get more visibility. Now, a lot of you guys probably understand this already, but for anybody who's like completely new to print on demand, let's kind of revisit this. So if I have a Shopify store, I'm pretty much responsible for everything. I have to set up the site. I have to get a payment processor. I have to set up the store how I want. If I'm selling on a platform like Redbubble, I fill out some profile info, but that's pretty much it. They have my payment processing set up for me. All I really have to do from that point is upload my products, and at the end of the month, they're going to give me a commission. Now, with things like Etsy and eBay, they're platforms in a sense that it's not your own website. You guys know what eBay is. You know what Etsy is. But you can create your own listings. So you do have a little bit more customization with Etsy and eBay than you do on a site like Redbubble. You have a little bit more control over the pricing. On eBay and or Etsy, you can price things at wherever you want. You have a little bit more of your own profile. And again, Etsy has PPC advertising, a program that I'm actually a huge fan of, and it's worked really well for me. And then eBay has the sponsored listings where you can give up a percentage of your sale in order for better visibility. Now, so these things are going to be a little bit less hands-on than having your own store because, Etsy has a payment processor, eBay has a payment processor, you can use PayPal. But it is going to require you to do a little bit of the customer service work. So again, I mentioned, if I get a return on Redbubble, that's completely out of my hands. Redbubble handles everything. Same with like Amazon merch. If I get a return on Etsy or eBay, I'm having to handle that return. I'm having to actually issue the return. I'm having to tell the customer where to send the product back to if I want it back. So these hybrid platforms are, I guess you could kind of look at them as kind of the best of both worlds or a little bit of the good of each thing. If you're looking to expand beyond Amazon merch and something like Redbubble, but you're not quite ready to jump, full speed ahead into having your own store, you might want to try these platforms. There's not necessarily a monthly fee for being, Etsy charges 20 cents a listing or something, but there's not a fixed monthly fee like there is a $29 fee on Shopify. So here's a way for you to kind of branch beyond Amazon merch and Redbubble without taking on all the responsibility and costs that you would have opening up a Shopify or BigCommerce or Volusion or WooCommerce store. So here's what my experience has been. Now, again, there's so many variables. Maybe you price your shirts higher than I do. Maybe your niche caters more towards having a custom website. Maybe you have more authority built up in a niche. Maybe you have better social media platforms. Maybe you're a better social media marketer than I am. But let me kind of read you guys what my experience has been. So, while there are clearly benefits to running your own store, and while it holds more ability to scale and eventually turn it into a brand if that's what you desire, I've found with the high cost of POD fulfillment, the profits going from Printful to Shopify are negligible, and in regards to being better than selling directly on merch and Redbubble, and we're talking about maybe $5.38 versus $8 or $10, that's a little bit extra profit, but it doesn't seem enough to cover a Shopify store, Facebook ads, and the cost of driving traffic. So here's what I mean by that. I see some people selling t-shirts online for $35, $40, $45, even $50. I have zero desire to sell $50 t-shirts, right? Like my shirts they're cool and they're sought after and people like them. But it's not like I'm the next Ed Hardy. I'm selling a Bella Plus canvas shirt. Like I really don't feel like people are willing to pay $50 for one of those, nor would I feel right about selling it for $50. So what I'm kind of getting at here is I can be pretty much completely passive on Amazon Merch and Redbubble. On Amazon Merch, I make $5.38 for a shirt sale if I sell it for $19.99. So I'm selling it for under $20. I'm making $5.38, which I think is a pretty reasonable commission. On Redbubble, I think I'm making, depending on the shirt, whether it's a tri-blend or whatever else, I'm making anywhere from $5 to $8 per shirt sale. So by having my own Shopify store, I might be able to make $8 or even $10 per sale. So I'm making a little bit more money, but ultimately I'm having to pay $29 to Shopify. I'm having to drive all the traffic myself, which means I'm paying for Facebook ads or AdWords or whatever else, or paying for influencers. And I personally think the money that I'm going to pay for Shopify and to drive traffic is going to wind up costing me more than that, little bit of benefit I'm getting by charging a couple bucks more per t-shirt. I go on to say with a platform POD, I can set up a store, forget about it, and move on to another niche. With Shopify, I need to monitor the store. I need to make sure, there's things like Custom CAD and Printify and Printful. And yeah, they're automated, but sometimes they do have glitches. So, if I were running a print-on-demand store fulfilling through Printify or Printful, I wouldn't be comfortable with not checking the store for weeks on end or months on end because sometimes there is going to be a glitch and maybe one of these orders isn't fulfilled. And if I don't check on it, I don't know that a customer's been waiting 3 weeks for an order. Maybe somebody gets a shirt that's damaged. If I'm not monitoring that email, I don't know that shirt's been damaged. I don't know that the customer's been trying to contact me, and they may wind up doing a credit card chargeback because they couldn't get a hold of me, and that cost me extra money, potentially jeopardizes my merchant processing. So for me, the passive nature and lesser risk of selling on a platform makes it the way to go. That said, like I said, some people may have more success than myself on POD. Some people may be willing to price their products higher. I personally am not comfortable with charging $30 or $35 or higher for a t-shirt, so my margins are somewhat capped there. Now, let's get into this. So I kind of wanted to go through numbers a little bit. So these numbers that you're looking at right now, my Amazon merch numbers, not 100% of these numbers are within a niche. I do have, again, we'll just use an example of mountain climbing. If my Shopify store were about mountain climbing, not every sale here is about mountain climbing, but I would say probably 90 to 95% of my sales all fall within this one niche. So if we look at, for August, I did $1,000. I think it's actually $1,036 or $1,048. The previous month, July, it was $972. June was $903. May was $878. April was $867. So I'm making pretty good money through here, and this is fairly passive, right? Let's go over and look at my Redbubble numbers. Redbubble I've only been on since June. My first month I made $1.43. My second month I made $18.56. My third month I made $47.50. And September, which isn't even over yet, my payment thus far is $65.37. So I started on Redbubble in June. I didn't really put serious effort in until more recently. We got it up to $65.37, which isn't huge, but for something that's pretty much set it and forget it, it's not too bad. Potentially I can replicate this and get several passive $50 to $70 accounts going. And just to expand a little bit on what I mean here, like if I wanted to set up multiple stores, I probably wouldn't set up a Shopify print-on-demand store about rock climbing, and another one about kayaking, and another one about surfing, and another one about the state of Michigan, right? Like for me, that's just more than I would be comfortable running at one time. However, with Redbubble, because you pretty much set up the store, upload your designs, and then can forget about it, I would be comfortable setting up multiple stores because I'm not having to handle any returns, no customer service, anything. So, for this store, I have 60 different designs live, and I've done the same thing across Threadless, Spreadshirt, everything, right? I upload my 60 designs to each one of these platforms. Thus far, Redbubble is the only one that's returned any results, but I've only been on the other ones for a week or two. So I guess my thinking here is, yeah, $65 isn't going to make me rich. But if I can set up another store and make $65, another store and make $65, another store and make 65 bucks. Before you know it, I have 4 stores live. 4 times 6 is 48. Potentially I'm making $480 a month completely passively off 4 stores, and then I roll it out to 8 and I'm making $800. Now, obviously things aren't quite that easy. Not every Redbubble store you set up is going to be that successful, but I do see the ability to continue to scale and continue to move on to new niches because of how passive it is. Now, lastly, let's share my Shopify numbers with you, which I'll be honest have been a little bit lackluster. To date, I've spent over $240 on Facebook ads. As far as conversions, I made 1 sale for $28, and of that $28, it yielded about an $8 profit. It probably a little bit shorter of that, but we'll say $8. Now, I wasn't sure whether to factor this in, since ultimately I haven't decided if I'm going to ship out that larger order I told you guys about. But I did recently have a sale come through for $187. If I do fulfill that sale and it's not charged back, I stand to make $56 off of it. So, I'm looking at this as $8 profit, but if you want to look at it, you could potentially look at it as $64 profit. Now, Shopify cost me $29 a month. So after June, July, August, September, after 4 months on Shopify, Shopify has cost me $116. I also have, because I'm having a Shopify store and I have to kind of design a store, I had to buy some mock-ups and get a couple Fiverr gigs done for banners and mock-ups. That cost me $70. So to date, I've spent $426 on this store. Depending on how we look at it, I've made either $8 in profit or $64 in profit. Total sales, again, depending on how you want to look at it, has either been 1 or 2. And the total shirts sold, depending on how you want to look at it, has either been 1 or 9. So, when you first start a business, most people aren't profitable and making money their first month. So I don't necessarily want to call this a failure. If I were to run it for another couple months, I may be able to turn it around. I may be able to dial in my Facebook ads and be a little bit more cost effective on my spends. But ultimately, to me, this doesn't seem like it's going to be hugely profitable. I will admit I probably haven't put as much effort as I should into driving organic traffic through social media, Pinterest, Instagram, etc. That's something I probably could have spent a little bit more time on. But ultimately, thus far, and like I said, this is going to be kind of an informal case study. Thus far, it's looking to me like, at least for me in this situation, in this niche, platform is going to be the way to go over Shopify. Not only has it been more cost effective, but it's a lot more hands-off as well, and that kind of would potentially allow me to scale into other niches. So I'd love to hear your guys' input. Those of you guys who are selling on different platforms, what platforms have you had success with, and what platforms have you not had success with? I've done very well on Amazon merch. I haven't put a ton of effort into Etsy, but I have made a good amount of Etsy sales for the little bit of effort that I put in there and the handful of ads that I've run there. Shopify has been kind of a flop for me. Redbubble has been profitable. And then pretty much all the other platforms, Designs by Humans, Threadless, Spreadshirt, Teespring, I've only been on those for a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks max, depending on which one we're talking about. Those ones haven't yielded any sales yet. But I'd love to hear your guys' experience. Have any of you guys successfully transitioned through selling a certain niche on platforms versus going to your own Shopify store? Let me know how it's gone. And again, I'm not necessarily saying one way is always going to be better than the other way. I just kind of wanted to share my experience with you guys. I also wanted to share an experience that wasn't just, I made $100,000 my first month on Shopify. I wanted to share with you guys a realistic experience. And if, you guys watch a lot of my videos, you know whether you think that I'm, what's the word I'm looking for? If you think I'm a good print-on-demand seller from the advice I give and from my merch store, you can say, okay, this guy seems like he knows a little bit about print on demand, but he struggled with Shopify. Well, I struggle with Shopify. So just trying to give you guys a whole picture. Drop any comments that you guys think are relevant or any questions that you have about this. I had initially started making a video in the car just kind of rambling about selling on platforms versus selling on your own site. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to kind of more concisely and clearly deliver this information. So I decided I'd kind of put together this slideshow presentation for you guys. So hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button below. And until next time, guys, Rules for Rebels signing out.